Mamluks were very, very weak at the time. Even they couldn't even fight Timur. They weren't even in the mind to fight Timur.
Dude, fight Timur.
They didn't fight Timur. They went back from Damascus.
Dr. Manhattan. If Dr. Manhattan fights Timur, I'm putting my money on Timur.
Welcome, everybody. This is Questioning History, the place where a bunch of guys ask all the questions without any of the answers. Today, I'm joined by two amazing creators who cover so much of the Islamic history, which we'll be talking about today. We have Siawish and Tarek. And I will ask both of you to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about one of the videos you're most proud of, what it means to you, and why do you want more people to watch it, and maybe something you learned along the way while producing it.
Can I go first?
Sure thing.
Okay. For me, it was probably the video that I did. Well, it was actually a small series on the Afghan-Soviet War.
Okay.
I did a part 1 and a part 2, just stuck them together for a big documentary because I'm originally from Afghanistan. I was born there, and I've got attachments to that war, you know, family members who were impacted by it and whatnot. But over the last few decades, I had kind of not severed my connection, but with time, I've kind of forgotten about it. But when I was doing the research for the video, it really, you know, it kind of moved me emotionally a little bit, just seeing the numbers, seeing just how brutal the war was, just seeing the Soviet tactics that they employed in that war. It kind of shocked me just how brutal of a war it was. And it was a little, I mean, I don't want to dramatize it, but it was a little emotionally taxing, just a little bit, more so than my other videos, I'll say.
What tactic shocked you the most?
Say that again. What tactic?
Yeah.
Just, and I understand this is part and parcel of war, but just the systematized Soviet approach to terrorize just the countryside into preventing them from supporting the Mujahideen.
Can you give us an example? Because like a lot of people, me included, I'm more into ancient and medieval history. Like I know of the conflict, I know what it did, I know more like the headlines and the aftermath, but when you get into the nitty-gritty, give me some visuals. What did they exactly do?
For example, one thing that was really really messed up, and I've heard stories of people that I knew who knew people that got affected by this, is the Soviets would drop mines that they designed as toys.
Oh.
Yeah, so little kid comes and just picks it up and it blows off his wrist or blows up their feet or something like that. And there, I think, I forgot the exact number because it's kind of hard to gauge. I don't even know if we know the exact number, but they dropped millions of these, like literally millions of mines. And so even when they pulled out in early 89, the mines were still there. And I'm pretty sure there's a fairly big number of the mines still active in Afghanistan right now. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, like just how, because I've studied wars, a lot of modern wars especially. It seemed like a particularly brutal one, So that was shocking.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Siawish, how about you?
Yeah, for me, the video that I'm in among the recent videos. Well, okay, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Siawish. I run the channel on Muqaddima, and I do everything Hikmah History does, only better.
Emotional damage.
And I made, I think among the most the recent videos that I'm proud of is homosexuality in the Islamic world, because it's a very understated area of the Islamic history, that it was so common, and yet people just simply, you know, push it down under the rug and just cover it up like it never happened. And even today, like I get a lot of comments from people.
Thank you for
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
Telling me that this is all just Orientalist propaganda, which, by the way, is a term that I'm beginning to hate. I used to love it when I read Edward Said's book, but now I'm beginning to hate that term because people just use that for anything that they disagree with.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So tell us more about this. Like, was this in any particular time and area, or was this widespread?
It was pretty much, it was very common from pretty much like early Islamic history to the 1850s, from
Mm.
Morocco to India, everywhere.
Wow.
It was very common. We get many examples in Spain, Morocco, Afghanistan, India. We get many examples in Baghdad. We know of some rulers who preferred boys. And so it was widespread.
Hmm.
In like it was just like ancient Greece, very common.
Hmm. What's a famous name that you would say partook that people
Well,
would probably not consider?
a lot of famous rulers like Mahmud of Ghazna, for example, is a famous one.
Hmm.
You have Harun al-Rashid's son Al-Amin, who preferred boys, and then you have Abdurrahman III's son Al-Hakam II of Cordoba, who
Hmm.
was famous for it, and pretty much all Turkic generals had this thing going on. So it's like very common, especially whenever there were Turkic rulers. Not among the Ottoman sultans. It wasn't as common among the Ottoman sultans, but in the
Hmm.
public, it was still pretty common.
But that's not. Can I say one thing?
Of
Uh,
course.
but that's not homosexuality, though, right?
It's not homosexuality in the modern terms. Like in the modern era, we imagine people who are, well, I mean, no, not imagine, but like when we say homosexual, we imagine someone who is exclusively attracted to the same gender.
Right.
But that's not exact. But like in the Islamic world, that was not really the case. We don't know of any people who were exclusively into people of the same gender.
Mm.
But I guess social pressure, made them conform to a familial unit to make sure that they had a family. And the identities that we have today, the sexual identities they didn't have back then. Homosexuality was just seen as an act rather than as an identity.
Hmm.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, let's go right into the debates. And the first one I have for you boys is, which is the most fractured period in the Islamic world?
Ooh, fractured. Honestly, I think I have to think about it a little bit, but the thing that comes to my mind straight away is the closer you get to modern times, the more fractured it becomes.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, probably. So whatever, 19th century.
19th century. Sawish?
From the 1200s to the 1500s, you have these 300 years, which are just generally fractured. The Islamic world is just something that I once read in a book called "The Era of the Islamic Civilization Under Siege." But if you have to become specific, then it's from 1400 to around 1450 or so. At that point, Timur's empire
Hold
had
on, hold on, hold
crumbled.
on. This is no. Save that for your
Okay.
argument. I'm gonna go easily with the whole collapse of the Seljuk Empire and basically everything after Malik Shah's death. Malik Shah the First,
So that's
which
12th century,
11th century,
late 11th,
late
late
11th
11th.
century, early
Yeah.
12th century. That's my choice, and I'm glad we don't have any overlap. Okay, so the rules are 90 seconds each for main argument and 60 seconds for rebuttaling the other two. I will go first on the first one, and good luck.
Okay.
So the nomadic empires in general, when they come to a region, they totally destabilize it. They completely destroy the status quo. And but you have layer over layer when you're talking about this period, because even before the Seljuks arrived, the whole Middle East was completely destabilized by other nomadic groups. The Caliph in Baghdad was completely a puppet by that point and had no real influence. And then the Seljuks came in and with their incredible military prowess managed to become the savers of Islam after they took it. I believe Alparslan's grandfather. And these champions of Islam had a really, really good couple of rulers, and then Malik Shah, who was incredible, died. And it was a civil war upon civil war with nephews and uncles and brothers all fighting each other, which led to the complete fracture of the Seljuk Empire. Today, we don't really consider that much of a fracture because all the maps show it that it's like united. But in truth, that whole unity of the Seljuk Empire is a total myth. Different provinces had different Atabegs who did whatever they want with local autonomy. And the fact that the Crusaders could just walk in and take Antioch and they continue to squabble between themselves speaks for itself at how fractured they were. And in reality, the Crusades' success can mostly be given, like the biggest chunk of it should be given to the Islamic fracture and time. Okay.
Should I go?
Yeah. I think you're up next.
Okay, so I would say probably the 19th century, although the two options you guys have selected are pretty good as well. To be fair, there's an added variable which aids the disunity of European causes. But in that period, ideas sort of relating to nationalism were sprouting up, which are naturally going to work against Islam or some sort of a religious based identity, and you saw that throughout the realm of the Ottomans with I guess you can call it the embryonic stage of Arab nationalism popping up through places like the Levant, Bilad al-Sham, and then within like other areas, if you go to like India, the whole divide and conquer rule is being put to the test by the British, and it's working. I mean, we can sit here and talk about how industrialized and how organized the East India Company was, but if it wasn't for Indian divisions, then the British would have had a far harder time than they actually did in colonizing the subcontinent. I guess the same logic can be applied to sub-Saharan Africa, the Islamic sub-Saharan Africa, which I'm not necessarily an expert on, but yeah. That's my argument.
Okay, 5 seconds to spare. Good. Siawish?
Okay, in the year 1405, I think Timur died, and at that point, he had already destroyed India. He had fractured that into many various polities. He had destroyed the Ottomans, well, nearly destroyed the Ottomans. They would come back. He had destroyed the Middle East. He had sacked Baghdad, Damascus, etc. Egypt was in collapse. And in Morocco, there was no central authority, and Al-Andalus was being like basically pushed out as well. And so I think that that's the most fractured point when Timur died, and his empire was further divided among his heirs. There were civil wars, so pretty much everything from Bengal to Morocco was in small, tiny little polities. There was no single actually stable state in the whole region. Timur had done that himself, but then at this point was, I think, Islamic world at its weakest before colonization, merely because of the fact that there was not a single state at the time that was powerful enough to actually do anything. And this had very, very serious consequences for the Islamic world later on, because you had but slowly the Ottomans came back. India was united by the Mughals, and Iran was united by the Safavids. Egypt was taken over by the Mamluks, and then the Ottomans. So slowly it came back, but it was, in my opinion, the most fractured.
Can I provide a rebuttal to Siawish? Is that allowed?
I think we'll do a rebuttal later.
Yeah, we do the rebuttals now in the same order. So I'll go first, 60 seconds. And okay, so both of you made some very different cases. Tarek, you spoke about a very fractured region, but in terms of the whole Islamic world, I think even in the 19th century, the old man of Europe was still holding on, still had significant amount of autonomy and influence. So the Ottoman Empire, considering how strong they are, if you don't destroy that keg, you still see a very unified Islamic world, even if it's not so in India. Siawish, you, on the other hand, very strong argument for how the whole of the Islamic world was fractured, but that lasted for a very short period of time, like you as well mentioned. Yeah, Timur did destabilize everything, but things kind of went back to normal fairly quickly, including in the Ottomans. Whereas with my example, this collapse from Malik Shah gets fixed maybe around your timeline, because by the time the Middle East and the whole of the Islamic world gets back up on their feet, the Mongols come in again, and this period is much more lasting time. Oh, that was close.
Okay. So I would disagree with Georgie firstly by saying that the same criticism you had of Siawish, I can apply that to you. I would say that your time period is even shorter than Siawish's, because I feel like, with all due respect, you're overlooking people like Nuruddin Zengi and Salahuddin, who, to be fair, they didn't necessarily have the biggest empires in the world, but it's a fairly large portion of the area. And then in the West, you got to bring in people like the Almohads and the Almoravids, or in the other order. They had a fairly stable, strong state, albeit for 5, 6, 7 decades each. I would say one thing to Siawish, which is that you overlooked the Mamluks and the Ottomans. Yes, Timur did a lot of damage to the Ottomans, but dude, within the space of 10 years, they were damn near back to normal. That speaks volumes to me. Volumes. That is the highest indicator of a system's legibility. So that's excellent. The Mamluks were still there. And yeah.
Time. Really strong counter.
Okay, in the 11th century, like Tariq said, the Almoravids were still going strong. Spain was still under Muslim control. Egyptians were okay. You had, I would make the case that even the Seljuks in Anatolia were pretty strong. You had a strong presence in India under the Ghurids and the Ghaznavids, stuff like that. So I think that period does not really qualify. In terms of the 19th century, I agree with everything Georgie said, that you can say it was fractured, but it wasn't exactly, but it was under attack from every side. But there were still strong polities in the Islamic world at the time. Whereas in the Timurid era, there was, after the collapse of the Timurids, there was basically nothing. And we're talking about the most fractured era. It was the most fractured era, even though the Ottomans, everything would bounce back within the Ottomans. Bounced back very quickly, but the rest of them would take 100 years to actually come back, and the world was completely different than the world that the Ottomans had found themselves, that Timur had found himself in.
Nice, starting really strong,
That's
boys.
a very Central Asian centric view, bro. The Timurids were very fractured in Persia and Central Asia. The rest of the world, dude, were like, I don't care about
No. India was pretty much.
India towards the end, before even Timur came, the Tughlaqs were on their way down,
listen,
down,
the Tughlaqs were, but it was Timur who destroyed the Tughlaqs and who sort of fractured India. And after that, we saw a rise of like local polities, local languages, stuff like that. So we have that. Whereas in Egypt, you would say that you had Mamluks at the time, but the Mamluks were very, very weak at the time. Even they couldn't even fight Timur. They weren't even in the mind to fight Timur.
Fight Timur.
They didn't fight Timur. They went back from Damascus.
Dr. Manhattan. If Dr. Manhattan fights Timur, I'm putting my money on Timur.
They were so weak. They didn't even fight Timur. Like they came to Damascus.
You know why they didn't fight Timur? Because they were smart. Why would you fight Timur?
They weren't smart. There was a lot of infighting. I think the king's name was Faraj. He was just afraid that
they fought the Mongols, though.
That was 200 years earlier. And that was, by the way, that was not under Halagu Khan or with the full army.
Yeah.
There's no way that the Mongols could have taken Egypt. I've made this case before many times.
Whoa.
Mongols could not have taken Egypt.
Why not, dude? What? Don't say things like that. Like you're Nostradamus.
There is no way that Mongols could
any
army.
No way.
Any Mongol army that was small enough to feed in the desert, to feed their horses and themselves in the desert, was simply not big enough to take the Mamluks. The Mamluks were very vital at the time. They're very strong at the time. They just come together under Baybars and his predecessor. What's his name?
But the desert, like, there's still a lot of fertile land around the Nile. They just have to get to the Nile, and they can.
they couldn't have not have crossed the Sinai
Put
or
it to you like this,
Palestine.
Sawish. What do you think about this?
What are you talking about? They crossed the Gobi Desert
They
Yeah,
multiple
crossed
times.
under
crossed
very
Iran.
very different circumstances.
How are they
Hey,
different?
Sawish, can I say something? I think you're like on the right track, but I would say I would counter and modify your position by saying that if they had established themselves in the Middle East for say like 3-4 decades and gotten their bearings of the environment and an understanding of the environment of where there's an oasis town, blah blah blah, all of this, then you can't say what you said.
Then
But if
And
they're
they were
then
really
they
good at
could've-
intelligence.
but they would have
have
they would
people
have
tell
had
them where
to-
the oases are.
they
One
would have
Savage?
had to establish themselves first in
Yeah.
Damascus. And the fact that they settled down, became urban, that was where the problem was. That is exactly why they would have to settle down in Damascus
Yeah.
and start cultivation
But
in
that's not
Syria,
what you
because
said.
Syria,
You said
Syria-
any Mongol army can't
Yeah,
take
dude.
Egypt.
any Mongol army that was small enough to cross the desert was not big enough to defeat the Mamluks. The Mamluks were very, very powerful.
Give me a
at the time.
number. Give me a number.
What does small mean?
It's not 100,000. I think around 30,000 or so is the
Dude,
maximum.
No problem.
What are you talking about? You know the
30,000
Mongols-
roll over Egypt
Dude,
with the
that's
right
like-
leadership.
I really don't think that. Mamluks were very powerful at the time.
No. See, I wish you're absolutely right. They were very, very powerful.
Very.
Remember that the that numbers with Mongols are slightly different.
Yes.
Like 30,000 is a smallish army for most states. For the Mongols, that's a medium to big sized army.
Yeah.
The
I
entire
guess.
organization of their army was that we don't need a lot of men,
Yep.
which is one reason, at least in the beginning, when people would face off against them, they would feel really confident. It's like,
Not
what the
even
hell
in
are
the
these lot gonna
beginning.
do with
What was
15,000?
the size of the Mongol army at Injalut?
I don't know,
Uh,
but I don't think it was.
Angelut
huge.
is so overhyped. We're gonna go.
Yeah,
I
true,
promise
but
you,
what
we
was
will
the
go
size?
into the.
What was Don't read Wikipedia because they always say dumb things like 100,000. Where you get?
No, so according to Wikipedia,
20?
it was something like 10,000 to 20,000.
Yeah, 10 to 20. That's nice.
Yeah.
Good.
And the
Yeah.
Mamluks were 15 to 20,000.
Yeah,
Similar
dude.
numbers. I think it was similar numbers.
Bad
They s-
commander.
Yeah.
They're not interested. This is the reserve army. They were focusing on the civil war at the time. This was not the Mongols, not even near their prime. This is like the B team.
Well, you're just talking like a Mongoloid.
I don't give a fuck. I am a Mongoloid. In my heart, I'm a Mongoloid. That is what I am. We are a horde. That is what we are. Yes, we are that. We are 100% that.
That's not something to be proud of.
It is something to be proud of.
Yeah.
This is the
But-
B squad.
But
True.
Georgie, you do have to emphasize the thing that Siawish said, which I really agree with.
Yeah.
That yes, on the one hand, you can talk about how the Mongols weren't necessarily at their finest, but don't disrespect the Mamluks. Like they,
The
at that
Mamluks are
point,
really good.
honestly, under Baybars in 1260s and 70s, and his predecessor Qutuz for a few years,
Yeah.
dude, I would pit them against anybody on the planet and think, you know what, you got a solid chance. Anybody.
I would as well. I
To
just
defeat-
think the Mongols are out of this world. Like
If the Mamluks were in a city like Damascus, for example, if they faced them off in Damascus, they would lose. But I really don't think that the Mamluks would lose in Egypt against
in
any
Angelut,
Mongol
the
army.
Mamluks gave them an open field battle with some traps, of course, but they went out against the Mongols. If you're facing a true Mongol commander,
Yeah, in the open field, you cannot defeat
you're
them.
gone. Like
Yeah.
you're gone. Like on a one-on, the Mamluks can win by attrition, by some really clever things, by but not in an open field. In an open field,
I agree.
no one can smash.
I
the
don't know,
Mongols.
man. I feel like I disagree with that, Georgie, because
Okay.
I feel like people don't deep the ethnic origins, I guess, the background
Yeah.
of the Mamluks. Like, I'm not saying Turkic, Central Asian Turkic is the same as Mongol,
Mhm.
but they're like, you can call them distant cousins.
Let's
in terms of-
let's come back to this in the banter
what I
episode
mean?
because I have some really good ones for you. I want to hear what you think. It
Okay.
is a very interesting topic. Angelut is such a contentious point, but let's save that for later. This is perfect. Pick a nomadic group.
Um,
Perfect
Berbers.
transition. Berbers.
Hmm.
Okay.
Berbers, nice. Okay, what would I pick? The Turks.
which ones, dude?
But yeah,
which
there
one?
were a lot of Turks.
Yeah, there were a lot.
Okay, let's go with Uzbeks.
Uzbeks. What do you guys want to pick for me?
Oh, it has to be the Bulgars.
The Bulgars.
Yeah,
I'll
Oh,
take
nice.
it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Represent, dude.
I'll
Patriotism.
represent. The plot twist now is
Wait,
there's a plot twist here. Which of our groups that we already picked had the biggest impact on the Islamic world?
No, but that's not. Oh, he said specifically Uzbek, right? Not Turks.
Uzbek, yes. What's the
Okay,
one that Tariq picked?
Berbers.
Berbers. Okay, yeah.
I think we're pretty evenly matched, to be honest. Tarek, I'll let you go first. 90 seconds. Begin when you start speaking.
Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. I think it is actually the Berbers. If you look at the end of the Umayyad Khilafah, when you have something called the Great Berber Revolt, late 730s, that is it's not the nail in the coffin, but it is a significant event in the downfall of the Umayyad Khilafah. And you can say that it set the precedent for the Abbasid revolution, or whatever it's called, with 6, 7, 8 years later, where now people accept that Umayyad authority can be undermined. And then when you also look at certain Berber states that were established, like the Almoravids and the Almohads, people forget that the Almohads went as far east as Western Libya. That's damn near 2/3 of the North African coastline. So when you look at that, and then you look at the impact that they had in Al-Andalus, and then you also take into account the Barbary pirates and how prolific for such an extended period of time that they were, going into like the 16th and 17th century, fighting against the Spanish Imperial Navy. I think it's a no-brainer. And then you bring in to account certain scholars like Ibn Khaldun. Well, I'm actually kind of cheating because I don't think he was Berber, but like Ibn Battuta, I think, was Berber, but certain other scholars as well who had a massive role in propagating theology specifically.
Time.
Sorry, I have a mint in my mouth. That was very unprofessional of me.
It's all good, bro.
But then again,
Salish?
when are you professional?
But, dude, that was unnecessary.
That's totally necessary.
Salish?
Okay, so the Uzbeks. Well, the Uzbeks are mostly known for the fact that they were the ones who pushed Babur out of what is now Uzbekistan, and sent him to Kabul and then India. So without the Uzbeks, we would have a very weak Babur sitting on a very minute throne in Uzbekistan, and we would not have the great Mongol Empire. But other than that, those Uzbeks, they continued to build more and more khanates. After that, there was Uzbek Khanate after Shebani Khan, which were pretty strong, and they kept Central Asia together till the Russians came along. So I think that in terms of impact, without them, it's possible that Central Asia, large parts of Central Asia, would have fallen to Iran. Or even to Xinjiang, because Xinjiang had a Muslim empire there as well. But maybe China would have rolled over and taken Central Asia. That's also possible. I mean, in the like 1,000 years earlier, they had the imperial ambition of taking all of Central Asia. So who knows? So I think that in terms of Central Asia, we have to thank the Uzbeks for keeping it together and for giving us the Mongols. And they were like the rivals, the great barbarian threat to the Safavids, which I think is also something that kept the Safavids strong. Yeah, that's it.
Sweet. Okay, let's see. The good news is that the bad news is that I have the Bulgars who don't have that much of interaction with the Islamic world, because I'm not counting Bulgarians. The good news is that they have one of the biggest impact on the world in the siege of Constantinople 717. Essentially, this win belongs as equally to the Byzantines as much as it belongs to the Bulgarians, simply because they make a blockade on the land and prevent from the Islamic plans to unfold by, weirdly for a nomadic group, creating a giant wall, and patrolling that with thousands of riders who would harass and kill any foragers that would try to leave the comfort of the camp where tens of thousands of people of the Umayyad Caliphate were camped at. denied them access to supplies. They denied them access to wood for structures and fortification and fuel, and denied them access to grazing grounds for all the cattle and the horses and the camels they brought. So essentially, this was a war of attrition when it didn't need to be. The Umayyad plan was to go out, forage. They didn't bring any siege weapons because they knew they had plans, they had engineers, they had the capabilities to build them. The Bulgarians were the reason why Constantinople didn't fall. And the Constantinople not falling has a bigger impact on the Islamic world as a whole than both of your groups combined. Time.
Pretty strong argument.
No, it wasn't, dude.
Wait,
Well,
Tarek,
if you
Tarek,
take
Tarek, you're up.
Okay. Firstly, I want to say, I mean, I thought I was a guest on this show and I was going to be treated with some respect.
I mean, that's the story of my life. No respect.
What do you mean the siege of Constantinople in 717 was more important than both of us? Dude, I'm talking about 1300 years, and you got one little, firstly, Constantinople, I get it. It's really important. It's beautiful. It's got a lot of history. But dude, don't make it out as if it's like, oh, like... There's no history without Constantinople. Screw Constantinople, man. What the hell? But anyway, sorry, that was my emotional little rant that I got triggered. Okay, so the Uzbeks, it wasn't a strong argument, Siawish. I'm not gonna lie to you. China had a bunch of its own worries in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, and it wasn't necessarily focusing heavily on extending its way into Central Asia. I get your point about them pushing Babur and forcing Babur to go more southward is a pretty solid point. The one of Safavids, not so much. Did you say time?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a weak point about the Safavids too.
Sawish,
I will end you.
destroy
Okay.
us.
No, I was just talking about him. Okay, so in terms of the Berbers, a lot of non-Berbers take credit, and we actually have a lot of mixing there. For example, Ibn Khaldun was not a Berber. He did not claim to be a Berber, even if he probably had more Berber blood than a lot of people who claim to be Berbers. Similarly, it was what was his name? Ibn Battuta. Similarly, I would have given you this argument if you had included Amir Abdul Qadir, but you did not, and rightly so. He might have been ethnically Berber, but he claimed to be an Arab, so that's a bit of a difficult thing. But yes, the Berbers did have a huge impact on the Islamic world. In terms of the Bulgars, I mean, the importance of Constantinople to the Islamic world is usually very, very exaggerated. I mean, of course, the Muslims wanted to take it, but I'm pretty sure that if the Umayyads had taken it, they would not have like turned it into a capital or something. I'm pretty sure that they would have just left it to rot. Well, not rot. I mean, it was an important city. They would have used it as a trade or something. But yeah, in terms of the Chinese thing that Tariq said, you don't give me 10-second thing.
No,
You give
no,
him
I'm
the
sorry.
10-second thing.
I'm
wait,
sorry.
no
I'm
way,
sorry.
No way.
He gets the 10-second warning. I don't.
Nah. Siawish, I win.
You know what? You were late for the podcast, so you know what? You have exactly 10 seconds once you start speaking.
Dude, you were late for the podcast.
10. It was my bad, and
Yeah?
you were late, and I
Yeah.
was late too. But Siawish was on time, so he gets the 10 seconds. Go, Siawish.
In the 1670s, the Chinese were already pushing east. They were already trying to take over the Xinjiang Khaja thingy, and they were trying to take over Tibet. So who knows if they hadn't conquered it, they would have maybe they would have gone to Central Asia.
Wait, but I want 10 seconds now to
No,
Yeah.
you were late.
I forgot to do the hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get your laptop updated on time so you're always on time. for
Dude, I
meetings.
need a new laptop, man. This bad boy just freezes on me.
Okay.
I have to put it in charge like 24/7 now.
First of all, I think it's a little hypocritical for both of you to diminish the quality and the importance of Constantinople when
Boy, here we go.
everybody in the Islamic world remembers the fall of Constantinople to Mehmed, and that's one of the biggest things for the Islamic world. So no, I'm not giving you that. If it fallen earlier, it would have been even more impactful. Secondly, with the Berbers, I think you are stretching the timeline so much, my man. Like, were they nomadic the entire time? Because I can give you a couple of centuries, but you wanted like a millennia.
Yeah.
As for the Uzbeks, in both cases, you're talking about some regional things. But with the Uzbeks, you spoke a lot about the importance that they did in bringing this person or that person. But it makes me feel like they were more like a pawn. And on the question of their importance to the Islamic world, it feels like they were like a stage between one thing that came before them and one thing came after them, and they didn't have that much of an impact on their own, except for preserving some portion of it. Time. Wow, that was intense.
Okay, I have a question. Are the Bulgars the ones, for
Yep.
example, that lived, the ones that Ibn Fadlan visited? Are they same as Bulgarians?
Very
There's
good
two.
question. Very
There's
good
two,
question.
right?
I don't think it's true, is it?
No,
So
there's two of them, right? There's the Pannonian and the
there's
Avar.
many. So there's many Bulgars. There's actually been Bulgars in Persia, founding their own state. The Volga Bulgars are pretty famous. They clash with the Mongols. There's
Yeah.
there's a state called Old Great Bulgaria, which like basically the Khazars ran it over. Old Great Bulgaria was in Ukraine, and the immigrants of this destroyed state went into four directions. There were four sons of the Khan, and one of the sons, Baruch, settled in what is modern day Bulgaria, south of the Danube. The moment the Bulgarians really, there's like a century of assimilation with the Slavs, and the nail in the coffin is pretty much the Christianization that happens a century and a half, a little bit more, almost 2 centuries after they settled there. So
When was that?
Thank you for that. Let me just check. 800 Christianization.
Okay, so
860 yeah, 864. 864.
Simeon the Great, no? Or no?
Boris the First.
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, very cool story about him, but I'll save that for another time. So basically, you can take that year. They are nomadic. You technically can call them Bulgarians and Bulgars, but it's fair to call them Bulgars between 680 to 864, after which they are proper Bulgarians. Like even the army changes. Like up until that point, there were nomadic cavalry and Slav infantry. Even the army had a big division, as well as the aristocracy. Slavs were not allowed to be nobles and take decisions or take governmentship. But in time, that slowly the two groups assimilated and became one.
Nice.
All right, so here's one final thing that I'll say. My group is the only one that has a country named after it. So I think that I win that.
Over here, old friend. In case you haven't noticed, you've fallen right into my trap.
No way! How are the Bulgars not Bulgarian? The Bulgarian? Oh no!
I
He
think
said
we just
you
established that.
time, Georgie. When you were talking, that's why you asked that question.
Yeah, I mean, I win.
Was that the
Wait.
whole thing for? All right.
Dude, this is why you can't trust communists, man.
I actually recently made a video about the Tatars, and I actually read about Bulgars and Bulgaria, and that I knew the answer. I was just setting you up.
Oh my god, what a trap! Okay.
I remember I read that script for that video. I was like, why is he asking this question?
Yeah.
He knows this.
Well, hopefully it was useful for the audience. Now, the next one is, which Islamic defeat? This is very thematic with my question. My pick last time. Which Islamic defeat, if reversed, would help the Islamic world the most?
I like it.
Pick a defeat, reverse it, and argue why it's incredibly more influential than the other two. So what were you guys going for?
I got one of two. Let me just choose. Oh yeah, okay, I'll choose. I know which one.
Okay, Siawish?
Okay, just give me one moment. I have to confirm something.
Yeah, wish
Okay.
if you choose the same one as me, I'm gonna be annoyed.
If any of you chooses the Siege of Constantinople, I will be annoyed.
Dude, who cares about Constantinople, man? Keep it.
What is Constantinople?
Nothing.
Sad face.
The battle I would choose. I would choose sort of an amalgamation of two battles.
Oh no, I know you're gonna choose the same as me now. Damn it.
The Battle of Buxar and Plassey.
That's
in India.
exactly what I was gonna do. What the hell?
What?
Your ungreat mind thinks the same as my great mind. That is shocking.
Lepanto.
All right, so that I have
Lepanto,
to
okay.
change, yeah? Let me change 1 second.
I'll
I
go
was
Lepanto.
literally thinking, that's what I was thinking. Should I do Buxar or Plassey? And I chose Plassey because they could use the funds of Bengal to then go on and do what they did at Buxar. Let me think 1 second.
Hmm.
Okay.
And wait, hold on. I was so committed to that, I didn't even open my mind to other potentials. What's the question again, Georgie? One more time.
Pick up Islamic defeat of any state.
Yeah.
If reversed, why would that have more of an impact than the other two or any other one?
You can pick basically any battle.
Yeah, Vienna.
Case.
No,
Battle
but I
of
have to
Tours.
feel it. No, but I don't like. I'm not like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys who are devil's advocates. I have to actually. I'm an honest person.
You gotta
okay?
believe
I
in it.
don't. Okay, I have to believe in it. Wait 1 second. Man, they're all crap.
Something with the Khwarezmians and the Mongols.
I was thinking of Al-Andalus, but no, that's not fair. Vienna wouldn't even be that big of a deal because they were already overstretched.
Jerusalem, Antioch.
Again, Jerusalem is overblown. All these cities are overblown, man.
Sad face.
Everything.
Oh my
They
god.
don't even matter that much. God damn, this is not an easy one, huh? 1 second, 1 second.
Timur.
What about the siege
Ankara.
of? Yeah, Ankara would be a good one. What about the siege of Baghdad? That's technically not a battle, but if they had won.
Yeah, you can go that. I would go a little earlier because there's still a lot of devastation.
I don't even like that one. That's not even a good one.
You like Ankara. You like Ankara. Admit it.
I'm probably gonna have to go with Zalaka in Sagrajas. Zalaka 1086.
1086. You gotta give us
Hey,
some
no,
context.
that's no. The Muslims won that one. What am I doing?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Sorry, they won that. Navas de Tolosa.
Ah,
It's not a battle, but when they took Toledo. Alfonso the fifth, sixth.
okay.
He took Toledo in 1085.
Isn't there a novel in which the Muslims won the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa, whatever?
Yeah, I heard
Tolosa.
about that. What
There's
is
a
it?
novel. There's a novel in which
Okay,
Muslims
so
won that.
make your choice.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I'm
Probably
choosing
Toledo would be a nice choice.
Toledo. Yeah, Toledo. Yeah, I'll choose that.
Did you trap him right there? Yeah, it would be a great choice. Go with that one. Don't do Ankara. Don't do any of this. Okay. Who went first last time? Siawish?
No, I think
I think it was you. Yes. I was second. He was third.
Then you were first now. Okay.
I am first now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what did I pick?
you
Yeah.
chose Ankara.
No.
Okay, so the reason that the Battle of Plassey Buxar, let's call it one battle, is so important is because it was the first stone cast by the British into building their British Raj. If the British had been pushed back at that point, and we're assuming a strong Muslim front at that time, then the Muslims were like, this was at the point at which the Indians were starting to see that the English had more ambition than just being traders and merchants. So it's very much possible that the Muslims would have the Indians would have made an attempt to push the British off the subcontinent. And if the British had been pushed off the subcontinent, then you lose the the crown jewel of the British Empire. And so India could have returned into like sort of Shashi Tharoor has really set me up for this argument, but unfortunately I don't remember it. Without colonization, you would have India industrializing on its own pace. You would have different states in India, and to this day you would have a very different India than you do. I mean, of course, if colonization didn't happen, that's true. But I think that even if the British had lost that battle and the Muslims would have united to expel the British would have just bounced back. After having lost in Americas, they would have really strong desire to come back to India. So I think that they would have bounced back. I might have set you up for a rebuttal myself.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm done.
All right. Lepanto. Okay. There are a lot of defeats that people talk about with the Ottomans that they think like, okay, that was the beginning of the end. And I'm not going to make that case for Lepanto. I will just mention that whenever the Ottomans are trying to expand through land, the chances of them facing a coalition is much higher. Think about this. If they have absolute dominion over the Mediterranean, they can land wherever they want. Sicily, you got it. Sardinia, you got it. Let's sail over to Al-Andalus, no problem. Sail over to Rome, no problem. You have complete control and completely demoralizing the Christian world. How are they going to coalesce? Where will they group up? If the Christians make a coalition and go to one spot, the Ottomans will just sail over to another one. And if you're going to say that Lepanto wouldn't have done all that, you're wrong, because Lepanto had, if I'm not mistaken, 75% of all galleys in the entire Mediterranean were present at that battle. And unlike the Ottomans can lose the battle and they can repair their fleet, but the Europeans could not, because the Venetians, who were the biggest chunk of that fleet, if you take those ships, their trade goes away. They had merchant ships that they turned into war vessels and vice versa. So with one stroke, at Lepanto, complete naval superiority, and Christian world is just doomed. Italy, at the very least, is doomed. Time.
You know, someone once told me that if the Ottomans, why do I keep saying Muslims? If the Ottomans had won at Lepanto, they could have actually pushed and entered the new world. Yes, I don't agree with that, but it's an interesting case study.
You're skipping a lot of stones, but I'm not taking it out of the equation. You're skipping some stones, but Sicily is gone. I don't want to. Buff up my argument even more. Tarek?
Okay, so I will gracefully choose Alfonso the Fifth or the Sixth. Sixth. Thank you.
Was it sixth or seventh? The sixth.
No, it definitely wasn't seventh. I think it was sixth. Yeah. Alfonso el Sabio. I think Alfonso the Wise. I get confused. There's a lot of those. But anyway, he took Toledo in 1085. And it was a remarkable achievement, because Toledo is slap bang in the middle of Al-Andalus, Iberia, modern day Spain as well. And it was literally one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Taif estate, which after the Umayyad Khilafah kind of fractured, a bunch of different party states called Taifas emerged. And being able to take over Toledo and much of the area that was under that Taifa's rule was a major achievement for the Reconquista, in that it was a big push more southwardly, and the more they pushed down, the more they could isolate the different territories. Like all the way in the northeast, Zaragoza was still a Muslim territory, and it made it much more easier for the Reconquista to attack that, whilst at the same time focusing on the Muslim forces in the south. So if they hadn't been able to take Toledo, and then the Almoravids come the next few years, it would have been a very different position. The Muslims would have been much stronger.
Okay, rebuttals?
Okay, so let's start with Toledo. The problem with Toledo gave the Christians a foothold in Islamic territory, but then the subsequent Islamic empires, the Almoravids and the Almohad, they were simply not able to lay siege to any Christian cities. So even if they had Toledo, it would have only been a matter of time before the Christians took Toledo, and the Muslims never got it back, because the inability of these nomadic empires to actually lay siege. In terms of Lepanto, I think that to say that, yeah, of course, it would have changed the power in the power imbalance in the Mediterranean, and maybe even the entire world. But in the New World, Spain would still be the dominant power until, of course, the destruction of the Spanish Armada. And in terms of the Ottomans were like able to rebuild their entire fleet in like 10 years. What was it, like something like that? So on the Ottoman front, it wasn't much of a damage. Of course, I agreed with the Venetian point that yes, you don't give me the 10-second warning.
I forgot again. I was so.
He doesn't like you, wow. I hope you understand this. Georgi does not like you.
Are you upset with something?
She would be upset.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
Do you not like Nick either? I love Nick, but I don't like you.
No, come on.
Before you came
I love
on,
him.
Before you came on, because you were late as usual, he told me I don't like Sawish. I like you and your channel much better to me.
The
because-
fact that he said, if he had just said that he likes you, I could have taken that. But the fact that he said that he likes your channel, I really cannot accept that he said that.
Wow.
That's where you know it's not true.
all right.
Right.
All right. Let me go.
You're delusional, mate.
Let's see. Okay, delete. Okay. Both of your reversals are not really permanent. We're talking about very small scale reversals. Lepanto, no way. Like the Venetians would never rebuild their fleet to the size there was, nor anyone else. The Iberia and India are both places of contention that both sides wanted badly. That they struggled, and we see in our history that they've spent an enormous amount of manpower, time, resources, finances to take. See, I wish you shot yourself in the foot on your own. So I'm not going to go that deep. There would be another Plassey and another Plassey and a seventh battle of Plassey until it finally falls to the British. The fundamental question to both of you is this: would there be some kind of a hope for the reversal of those battles leading to a higher level of unity that stays there for more than one or two rulers? I highly think not, because of the nature of the people who held them, because of the nature and the geography of the region. Both of those regions, time.
Okay, can I go?
Yes.
All right. Firstly, I would just like to continue by going against the last point Georgie made, because at that time, the Mughals were ruled by a dude called Shah Alam II, who showed a lot of promise. And if he actually delivered 50% of some of the stuff that he said, he would have been some sort of a rejuvenator of the Mughal cause, because he was young and he had a lot of ambition. Like your cat. In terms of
Really?
Siawish, I think what he's done is illegal, and I think he should be penalized, because he literally chose two battles. Each one could be chosen in this category, but for some reason we feel sorry for him because he's a bit of a crybaby, so we give him, like, extra whatever rules. So that's not allowed. And Lepanto, I would say, is quite important, but with the trickling in of Spanish gold and silver, I have zero doubt that they would have been able to rebuild their navy. Not necessarily as fast as the Ottomans, because I'm pretty sure it was like in a year. Bro, look at just the armadas. One armada fails, 5 years later, another fleet.
The balance of power in the Mediterranean would have definitely shifted, but it wouldn't have had a long or major impact in anywhere.
This is a really interesting question that I really haven't thought of so deeply before. Like, I've studied Lepanto, but not in this way. This is why I like if reversed, a little bit of alternative history. The gold keeps coming. All of us agree on that.
Yeah.
But why would they build more galleys? Here's the thing. They don't care about galleys anymore. What's the point of building galleys? All they're focusing on is this big ships that are made to go and get more treasure. Yeah. So if the Ottomans do that, I see the Spanish definitely wanting to make some concessions and peace out, and not care about the Mediterranean so much, because they cared so much about the Americas. But then with the Ottomans, with full supremacy, like after, let's say, even if just southern Italy falls, maybe they want to start raiding some Spanish coastlines, and maybe that gets interesting. And the ships that the Spanish have, they're unsuited to fight in the Mediterranean, right? If they go up against a galley navy in peak condition from the Ottomans, those ships are gone.
I would push back on that, Georgie, man. I think if you just look at the territories that were under the control of Philip II, it just wouldn't make sense for him not to have a military navy.
All right.
You have the Spanish Netherlands.
How would he build it, though?
Spanish gold.
Spanish gold, hire a bunch of shipwrights and make a ton of galleys. Just overwhelm them with numbers.
I really think that if the Muslims had won at Lepanto, that the Christians would have just come together again, because Mediterranean was really important. There's no way that they would lose it to the Ottomans.
I do think it would have been pretty important. For like a few decades, maybe a little bit more. But Siawish's point is on point.
So you don't see Sicily falling?
I think
Sicily can fall. That's fine, man.
Okay.
Crete fell. Cyprus fell.
Different game. That's very close to the Ottoman
think
influence.
that-
Sicily falling would be a big deal. And the Christians being able to retake Sicily would be very difficult against the Ottoman power. Very difficult.
That's fine.
But go quick counter to you both. On the scale and the ability of the Spanish to build a fleet, fine. The Ottomans rebuilt the fleet and didn't do much with it. They stayed behind and they were content with the Eastern Mediterranean for one single reason. They didn't have the experience. Their captains were dead. All of their captains and all the experienced sailors were dead. It was like losing your officer corps. That's why naval battles are so interesting to me, because it's all or nothing. With land battles, you can retreat, the commander can save themselves, the officers can save themselves. But with navy battles, it's usually one side loses everything because you can't just run away, especially galley warfare.
I agree with you partly, and I
So
think
the
it's very
Spanish wouldn't,
intelligent.
even if they rebuild, even if they
Yeah.
rebuild, they would still lack the officer corps.
I would say I would offer one rebuttal to you,
Okay.
Georgi, which is that the Ottomans had a little bit of a glitch on their side in the shape of the Barbary pirates, because there was obviously, you know, that kind of informal, well, in some shapes, in some sense, especially with the Algiers, it was formal. They had this incredible, super intelligent recruitment for their navy, where they would recruit through the Barbary pirates, and those pirates would have a lifetime worth of experience. A lot of their admirals of their navies came through the Barbary pirates. I mean, obviously the Barbarossa brothers are the most famous.
Yeah, you're saying that, but in our timeline, they lost Lepanto and they did stay back. They couldn't go forward. They never recovered as a naval force. The Ottomans were dominant until Lepanto, and after that, they were in the back.
I think for all three battles that we've mentioned, the fact that they're important is very, very vital to the whole debate, because even if the Muslim side had won any of these battles, then the other side would have just come back again and again because defeat in this battle was way too unacceptable for any of them. So I think for Lepanto it would have been the same thing, that they would have the Christian maybe could have come together in a coalition, something like that, but the defeat wasn't acceptable.
And also I would add one thing to kind of answer Georgie's question about why didn't they come back, which is that Western Europe took Lepanto at the time to be really momentous. And just from a psychological perspective, that does a lot to ease your own paranoia and your own desire to do something about it. So even from the Western Christian perspective, they felt less compulsion to go and do something about the Ottomans in a naval context, and that can be attributed to that as well, to why there is less wars after Lepanto. But in the period before, Europe is just freaking out. You got Mehmet Fatih, when he dies, church bells are ringing all over Europe. And as they become slightly less problematic, it's like any problem you have in your own life. When it's like right here and your heart is like beating, you want to react and do something about it. But then when you relax, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I'll do something about this, you know?
I feel you. We could go on for days with this. It's an incredibly interesting conversation, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the comments on this episode.
Guys, can we take like a quick 30-second break?
Sure.
3, 2, 1.
Wow. The power of magic. We are back in. So the next question is very interesting. We're gonna separate ourselves from warfare and tactics a little bit and talk about which part of everyday life has the most Islamic influence in it.
Oh, wow.
Clothes,
Good question,
could be cuisine, could be drinking, could be smoking, could be anything you want.
Damn, that's a really good question, man.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I actually don't have my answer. Let me think.
Yeah.
The answer is really easy.
No, that's the first I wish, man.
I got
Coffee.
one. Coffee.
Oh, yeah. Bro.
Coffee.
I don't have the numbers on that. I'll have to Google that. Really? Oh my God, what the hell is this?
Coffee.
Okay, let's just...
All right. Tarek?
Dude,
everyday life.
I'd say like agriculture.
Agriculture?
Yeah, dude. Like agricultural techniques such as the windmill being not introduced, but being popularized when the Muslims came to Al-Andalus, and then that's why I really like Al-Andalus. It's like a conduit between the Islamic world and Europe. My thesis in my undergrad about that, how it influenced the Renaissance. But yeah, I think, let me see, because there's a lot.
There is
a lot. Oh, maths. No, science and maths.
Pick one.
Yeah, that could be
Pick one. Don't do science though.
Why?
Yeah,
You want to do
specific.
No, I mean, don't do science as a whole. That's too broad.
Right. Yeah, that's not. Dude, I don't know, man. There's so many. I guess I will choose, with your permission. Do you have one, Georgie?
I'm struggling between two. I'm waiting on you.
Okay. So don't put pressure on me. Just think. Give me like 10 seconds. One second.
Sure thing.
No, I'm doing it. I'm going with well, I can't go with science. Like the human body, biology. No,
anatomy.
Anatomy, I guess. Yeah.
You can choose
medicine.
Medicine.
I don't know.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we'll go with medicine.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I wanted to go with.
Aren't you a doctor, Georgie? I thought you were gonna go for that straight away.
Astronomy.
Okay.
Is astronomy a part of daily life? It is, right?
Of course, dude.
Astrology is. I don't know if astronomy is.
Shut up, Xiao. Do you like astrology, Xiao?
No.
I feel like you're the type of person that would like it.
All right. I'm gonna ask not to go first here because I really have to think. Okay. I'll go first next time. Tarek, you want to take this one or Xiaoish?
I can do. I think Xiaoish went first before. Okay. Medicine. So I will go with medicine because.
All right.
Especially in the medieval period, say from like 800 to around 12 to 1300, it is a very important stage in the history of medicine where it's like a conduit between modernity in the future and the Hellenistic classical knowledge on medicine. Now, with all due respect to the classical civilization's outlook on medicine, it was very basic. And in many regards, straight up wrong. When you look at certain ideas that Galen had about medicine and bloodletting and the other weird 7 climes or something that he postulated, it was literally wrong. And so when you go into medieval Islam and their approach to medicine, it's not even necessarily about the discovery, but their approach in how empirical it is and how rational and logical it is. You can see a very clear trend where the logical endpoint to that is the pretty cool, pretty advanced approach we have to medicine today. And even when you look at the early modern period in Europe, universities in Western Europe were studying Ibn Sina, Avicenna, as they call him, his treatises on medicine, and they directly learned from those medieval Muslim medical scholars.
Time.
And by the way, in case no one's put two together, medicine, super important for life. Like
very,
really,
yeah, 100%.
But it's not a part of daily life.
What?
Do you go to the doctor daily?
It's fair. Come on, it's fair.
I take vitamins.
I haven't been to the doctor in 12 years.
I exercise.
Hold on.
Yeah, and the Muslims did not contribute anything to exercise, did they?
Astronomy.
You're talking about? Yes, they did.
Okay.
What?
I begin now. 50% of the name stars in the sky have Arabic names, and that is for a very good reason. The Islamic world was obsessed with the skies, and I'm saying obsessed because they beat pretty much every other culture, and most cultures were also really curious about the skies, from the Maya to the Chinese, everything in between. The sky, you look up the sky on the unpolluted sky, and there's something awe-inspiring in it. And to be the best culture out of all of these up until the modernity is saying something. And this might not be a part of daily life, but it was a fundamental part of everyone's life for centuries, and it led to a lot of discoveries that relate to navigation and the advancement of science as a whole. There are sciences like philosophy that themselves may not create some purely physical, practical thing on their own, but they are the conduit to something greater. I see astronomy in that exact same way, and I don't see anyone doing it nearly as much, not even the Greeks or the Romans, as the Islamic world did. While it's both of your cases, especially in the case of medicine, there have been better societies before, much better societies before, like India and Rome and Egypt, and there were way better societies after. Like, it's a little mediocre. Time. One second over time.
Okay, is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, so people know more okay, no, it's not time for a rebuttal, right? Okay, so coffee is one of the largest parts of daily life to have come from the Islamic world. According to a website I found called disturbmenot.co, which I realize now might not be that accurate, 64% of Americans consume coffee every single day. So, like, in general, I don't know about Tariq. I don't know. I only know about myself. I don't drink coffee, but I think, Georgie, you probably do. And Tariq, being white, probably does. Well, white wannabe. It's in India, we have a term called coconut, which is like Tariq, white on the inside, brown on the outside.
Okay, you're good to go.
You ascribe to Karl Marx, a white guy, bro. You're the
whoa, hold on.
So it's
Let
like,
him finish.
So it's like that. The coffee is an actual part of daily life, whereas people don't look at the stars and be like, "Oh yeah, that's Altair. You know, it's named in Arabic." No, no one does that. And what was I don't even remember what Tariq's point was because it was so forgettable. Medicine. Oh yeah, people don't go to the doctor every single day.
What?
That's not a part of the daily life.
Dude,
people still die.
Wow. Very good one. Wow.
Yeah.
Very mature, very adult.
15 seconds. 15 seconds.
No, I think I've made my point.
All right.
Okay.
Counters.
Okay. Firstly, astronomy. I'm gonna side with my boy here. Who cares? Okay. Now, secondly, but more importantly, coffee is pretty important. But also, why are you talking to me about me being a coconut? But then the study you use just takes America into account. I don't care about America, with all due respect to Americans, right? You should have taken a more holistic study into account because honestly, I find that disrespectful and I'm disrespected. Secondly, medicine, dude, come on, man. You got to have a slightly more mature outlook on the utility of medicine in everyday usage. It's not necessarily about going to the doctor every day. It's just having a greater understanding of the human body. What is health? What is disease? How do you prevent it? And it's not just from an individual perspective, it's also how society and governments learn from that and then subsequently enact policies that are testament to that. So, and obviously, as we know about knowledge, is you just build on it. And whilst I like, that was 90 seconds? I was really getting into it, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's cheating! That was 60.
I thought you were doing a rebuttal because you were. I'm so sorry.
No, that was a rebuttal. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Oh, that was 60. Okay. 60. Yes.
Okay.
I was sorry. Got confused. Okay. Did I do my rebuttal?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's me.
I don't even think you should try, Georgie. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't have a chance, dude. Medicine and coffee. How you beating that?
Coffee is from Ethiopia, and to take credit for a drink that would have been found and being created anyway, regardless, is not that inspirational. And it's almost like an insult to say that the greatest thing that the Islamic world did for daily life is like coffee. You could go whole cuisine. I would rather you go how they impacted the food in everywhere, really. The paella, the Turkish kebab, and so many other things. As for medicine, bro, you are nailing Galen when it's all the Christians' fault for them translating him and thinking he's this amazing guy that everyone should read. The Romans they were like light years ahead in terms of their level of knowledge and what the Islamic world did. The Islamic world, don't get me wrong, were better than everyone around them, but both India, ancient Egypt, Sumeria, and Rome could do way more complicated surgeries, had way better pharmaceuticals than the Islamic world ever did.
Okay, rebuttal to the medicine thing. People still get cancer, so talk to me when Muslims cure that.
But with tech like that, you could cure cancer.
But I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Until then, I don't even want to talk to you.
What is that argument?
I don't know. I cannot have a serious
Actually,
argument.
I don't drink
against
coffee,
medicine.
so coffee doesn't count because not everybody in the world drink coffee.
Yeah, but a majority of people do.
No, but that's good. No, Georgie, with all due
Majority of the
respect,
diseases are doable.
And it's about daily life. Not everybody goes to the doctor daily.
All right.
it's not about going to the
Oh,
doctor,
I like
dude.
it.
What
I
the
like
hell?
it.
Come
That
on, you
was
have to
fun.
come up with a better
was-
argument.
That was fun.
I mean,
that was fun.
am I expected to make an argument against medicine? I have to become like Thanos here and sound like a genocidal maniac to make a case against medicine. Without the Muslims, life would not be so long. We would not have overpopulation. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah.
all right. I'm gonna bring us back. I'm gonna bring us back because I have a really good one coming up. First of all, I want you to pick a rival.
A rifle?
I have only 5 words for you. From my cold, dead hands.
To an Islamic state.
I'm not really into guns.
A rifle?
A rival. Sorry.
Okay, rival. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were like rifle.
A rival to an Islamic state, yeah? Like
Yeah.
Byzantium. Okay.
And the rival could be Islamic themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
He's gonna choose the same one as me, this guy again.
Go ahead and pick one for me. I want you both to pick one for me, and I'll choose from the 2 choices you give me.
Okay, so for me, I'm gonna choose for myself the Safavids. For
Okay.
you, I'm gonna choose the Marathas. And
I was gonna do the Marathas.
Nah,
come
but
on.
for Siawish, I'm gonna choose
No. He chooses for himself.
No, I
no,
want to
no,
see.
no,
I want to
this is
see
my
what choice
show
he
now.
gets.
I'm taking over. I'm deciding. I'm joking.
I want to see what he chooses for me.
Castile.
Castile against
Castile.
Al-Andalus.
Yeah.
Castillo. Sawish, what are you giving me?
Let me choose.
I gave you one, dude.
The Fatimids against the Abbasids.
For me?
Mine
No,
is
for
better.
myself. For myself.
Oh, okay. And what are you
Yeah, for
choosing
you-
for me?
For you, I will give you
Give him a really hard one. Make him
Come
look.
on, man. Come on, man.
The Arakanese Kingdom in Eastern India.
Oh,
No, I'm just-
no.
okay, a real hard one would be
No.
the Golden Horde and the Timurids.
No, but he likes that, man.
But it's difficult. Like
It is.
No, it's not. Tukhtamesh.
no one knows about that other than Tokhtabish. What do you know about the Golden Horde?
I know loads, bro. What do you mean? Uzbek Khan, Jani Beg Khan.
Come on. Give me a good one, boys.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. The Mughal and the Maratha would be good, but they weren't exactly
Why don't you
rivals.
switch it? Let him do Fatimids, you do Marathas.
If I am, well, I would prefer to choose. Well, there was no rival to the
Give me
barbarians.
Castile. Give me something.
The Afghan barbarians called the Duranis, they did not have a real rival in India because there was no power in India
The
at the
Sikhs.
time. The Sikhs were not exactly a centralized state. So
Nah, they were when what's the guy, the one-eyed guy?
With Ranjit Singh, that was
Ranjit.
later. By that time, the Durrani Empire was pretty much gone.
All right.
Not really.
Here's what I'll do. I will randomize everything you guys are saying. 6, Golden Horde. What else was it? Maratha, Castillo. Give me a few one. A few more.
The Fatimids and the Abbasids.
Okay.
Byzantium and the Umayyads. You seem to like that era.
Yeah.
You can also choose Ali and Muawiyah. That
Bloody
would be
hell.
an interesting debate.
Yeah, but it's a hard one. What about? Oh, I got one for you. The Abbasids and the Khazar Khaganate. Ooh,
Not
Which
bad.
ones?
Not bad, honestly.
Abbasid and the Khazars.
To the north.
Yeah.
North, yeah.
Interesting. Were they actual rivals? I never thought of them as having
Well, they fought
fought.
wars, man. They fought wars over like Iran,
In
Azerbaijan,
what time?
like eighth. No, yeah, like middle of the 8th century to middle of the 9th century.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Abbasids, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crusaders.
Crusaders. Okay, Crusaders.
Yeah, it's Richard and Saladin.
Yeah, Ayyubids.
Please,
And...
please give me a good one. Crusaders! Woo!
What?
I'm not joking. That's what it picked.
He
Out
just
of
did
7.
a random thing and it chose Crusaders.
Oh, Crusaders, Fatimids, Maratha, Byzantine, Sikh, Golden Horde, Castile.
Okay.
All right. The question is, coolest rivalry. Best story.
Coolest rivalry.
Crusaders.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have to stick with the ones that we chose, yeah?
You can show. Do you have an alternative? Because I kind of cheated a little bit.
No. I like mine.
You like yours? Siawish?
In terms of coolest, we have Mughal and the Maratha would be quite cool. I
That's
think
what I'm saying, dude. Choose that one.
Go. Yeah. Go.
Mughal
Go
and
do
Maratha,
one.
we'll go with that
I think
one.
we.
I wish you're Indian anyway, man. Just choose it.
Okay. And we're gonna do a little bit of an edit here. We were discussing so many different choices for really cool picks for this argument, which is the coolest rivalry. So we're back.
No, I don't think I will.
And we're ready to go. I'm going with the Crusaders. Tarek is going with
Safavids and I guess Ottomans.
all right. And Sawish?
The Mughals and the Marathas.
Perfect. Okay. I think it's my turn to go first because last time I bailed. So let me get the clock and I'm ready to go. The rivalry between the Islamic States and the Crusaders is just out of this world.
Hey son, I wanted to talk to you. I know religion's important and all, but I think you might be taking it a...
There's a reason why so many books have been written about them, some of which are bad and paint this more of a white versus black conflict. But how many conflicts do you have that for in history? Very few. It captures the imagination. It's created so many games. It's created so many visuals to this because people are warranted to like this period so much. It's a clash of worlds with everything at stake. Religions at stake, artifacts, ideologies, ways of government, everything you want, and of course, incredibly interesting and diverse battle techniques and tactics. So the Crusaders do make this amazing boxing partner for the Islamic world, which eventually loses out. But before they lose, they have a lot of hurrahs. The great rivalry between Richard and Saladin is everybody knows that even if they don't know anything about the Crusade. It's just a classic matchup. I would not even wager in the Islamic world. In all of history, Crusaders versus the Islamic world is one of the best matchups, most interesting rivalries. They sometimes even ally with each other. They fight, they hug, they kiss it out, and they fight again until eventually the Mamluks wrap up what's left. And I think it's just a great story. Time.
So I have to put my case forward about why this is the best rivalry?
Yes.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Islamic world, this is going to be quite a Middle Eastern centric viewpoint, but I would argue that because they came from the Middle East and the most prominent powers, most of them were based or, had an affiliation with the Middle East, I would say that that area is probably the most important to the Islamic world. And in the early modern period, which is this really, really essential time period where it like bridges the gap, again, acts like a conduit, my favorite word today, between the medieval and the modern period, the Safavids and the Ottomans are essentially fighting for supremacy in the Middle East. And it's not just supremacy of who wins politically, I guess. It's also to do with culture, I guess, language, religion, or sects of religion. Ottomans were Sunni, the Safavids were Shia, and they were militantly Shia, where they essentially enforced Shiism on their citizens in Persia. And if in the end, spoiler alert, the Ottomans won, and that's why you can attribute a lot of the Middle East's identity, at least in the last 400 years, to the way that it is now, because of that victory. But just think about, what if the Safavids had won? What would Syria look like? What would Iraq look like? What would Eastern Anatolia, the Safavids even, went into Eastern Anatolia, what would all of those areas look like? And I think it would be radically different.
Time. Perfect. Sawish?
Well, the Marathas were this. The story of the Marathas is sort of the story of the underdogs. They were in the Deccan and they rose up, and Aurangzeb spent the last 25 or so years of his life trying to destroy the Marathas, but he couldn't do that. And eventually it ended with, like 50 years after his death, the Marathas came up and they took Delhi and turned the Mughal Empire, which had once almost destroyed them. The Aurangzeb had taken one of their emperors, and he had scooped his eyes out and tortured him and killed him, and then he had taken his son as a prisoner, and still the Marathas were able to come back in just 50 years and take everything from basically the southern tip of the Indian subcontinent to the borders of modern day Afghanistan. So I think that's a very interesting story, not just because of the sheer power that the Marathas had, but because of how much comes out of this entire story. Like today, to Indian nationalists or Hindu nationalists, maybe I should say, it's a very, very relevant story. But in general, I think they have the coolest story, because the Marathas and the Mughals at the end of the day were not all that different. They were pretty much the same. The Marathas were technically a confederation, but you can make the argument that there was some confederation going on with the Mughals as well. So I think that in terms of that this is a story of an antithesis to antithesis that weren't exactly that different.
Very nice.
Opening salvos wise, I think this was the most balanced debate so far. Really, really strong on each side. Okay. Both of you tell very compelling stories. However, you fail to convince me what are the stakes? At the end of the day, it sounds like you're giving me a different kind of a flavor, but the flavor is not chocolate or vanilla. The flavor is cream or vanilla, or chocolate with hazelnuts. In both cases, you have these two states that are fighting for supremacy and influence, and whether the other one won, I don't see that much of a difference. It's less cool of a story. There are really cool human elements with scooping of the eyes and everything. I like those. When it comes, it just doesn't compare to the Crusaders versus the Islamic world. The stakes are everything. These two people hate each other, and it's a clash of civilizations that doesn't come often. People overhype how much of it is, but it still is. I would not say that Sunni versus Shia is a clash of civilization.
Can I say?
Yeah.
All right, two things. Firstly, I feel like I'm saying this a lot with Georgi, and I hope he doesn't, take this personally. But again, that's quite a European-centric view, man. Because I'm telling you, the Crusades were not that important. Like, it is very, very overblown, its importance. The fact that it's a clash of civilization, I need to do a video on this. I should have done it a few weeks ago, where I argue it's not a clash of civilization. But one thing you said that I did like was that it has captured, it doesn't matter if it wasn't a clash of civilization, if people think that it was, it's captured their imagination, and that's pretty cool. Siawish, I would say that whilst it is a really cool story in the sense that the underdog ultimately triumphs, I feel like you just shot yourself in the foot by saying that they weren't that different. So therefore, it doesn't really make a difference who wins. Whereas with the Sunni and the Shia, dude, are you crazy? You don't know if you care if who wins? It's like two different universes. If one wins, things are gonna look like this, and then if the other wins, things are gonna look like that, and it's totally different. Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about the coolest rivalries, not the most influential rivalries, I think.
Yeah.
Wait. What was the question? Was that what it was?
Coolest
might have-
rivalries. Yeah.
I might have misunderstood the question, but what's
Okay.
coolest? And
Yeah.
I think that this is not a part of the rebuttal, but I think that it's cool. It is sort of this moral dilemma or something. I like stories like that where they're both ultimately not that different, but in propaganda.
Wait, should I
and
start the
everything,
counter?
Of course,
Okay.
man. Don't give him.
I was confused. Like,
This game is rigged, man. We like them little bitches on the chessboard.
Okay, start the counter now.
I'll give you a timer. You got 50 seconds though.
Now you might say that the Crusades were a clash of civilizations, but so was the Maratha and Mughal struggle. If you take a look at it from the Hindu nationalist perspective, then they will say that this is Hindu India coming back against 800 years of foreign invaders. Everything is on the stake right here. There's nothing more important to that kind of India than this particular thing. And the Shia versus Sunni sect, I mean, it's ultimately Muslim. I mean, you might say this is Shia, this
You
is
don't believe
Sunni.
that.
It's basically the same. But that's the thing. And if the Mughal and the Maratha rivalry did not exist, it's possible that one of them, the Mughals, could have been strong enough to actually take on the British. So in terms of influential, it's quite a serious thing. Without the Marathas, they certainly would have been able to fight back. Well, not really. Well, it's difficult. I mean, you can make the case that they would have been able to fight back Nadir Shah because they had lost Gujarat and all these in different raids. They weren't powerful enough.
Honestly, boys, I think this was the best round. Like in every
Such a strong round.
Yeah,
Such
this
a
was
strong
the best.
round. But I do want to say something for everyone watching. I am definitely more of a what I want to do most. I want to talk about Venice and medicine and Mongols and all that stuff, of course, and I have my levels of expertise, but I think I am representing a lot of people who are Eurocentric.
Yeah.
I'm so happy, and that's even part of my role. I'm trying to improve, and I think the best way to improve is having guys like this on the podcast, and you can see the perspective, and you may not even agree with it, but at least you should see the other side. Check out their channel and really understand that all of our opinions should constantly change and evolve, and the best way for them to evolve is by instead of doing the legwork for yourself, is watching a video from a guy who's done the legwork all of his life. So yeah, thank you. That was truly a really, really cool debate.
Yeah, I just want to say, Georgie, I did feel kind of bad because I noticed myself like saying it. I think that was my third time saying it.
No, totally fine.
It's not like I'm kind of coming at you, because I know a lot of this is kind of devil's advocacy and just whatever. I don't want you to take that like personally or anything, you know?
All good, man. All good.
That's good.
Okay. Final debate.
Okay.
Which region of the Islamic world is the most overlooked?
Okay.
That's
all
pretty
right.
easy answer.
Yeah, it's all the wing.
Periphery. Yeah, the periphery.
Periphery,
yeah. I mean, honestly,
go ahead.
You just have to look at my YouTube channel and see the videos that I don't cover. That's it. So sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Like those two.
Those two are the most overlooked. You can add.
But let's make this a debate.
Asia,
Don't pick different ones and let's see where this goes. Because maybe
what is the question exactly?
Which one is which region in the Islamic world is the most overlooked? And I do want to say something. This doesn't have to do with which region nobody talks about. It's more like it has content and it's not spoken enough. Like,
okay,
playing devil's advocate, someone may say Al-Andalus is very overlooked because there's, people talk about it, but there's way more to talk about, right?
Yes.
So that's the scope of the question.
Okay.
Okay, I'll pick then. Well, I feel like I'm doing India too much. I'm representing India, but I will pick the Bahmani Sultanate in the Muslim Deccan.
Oh, nice, man. That's very nice.
Cool. That's a cool one.
There's only one person, including like all the channels that I know, who has made videos about that, and that's
Odd Compass.
Odd Compass, yes.
Yeah,
What's his name? Is his name Varun or Tarun? I think.
I think yes.
Like
I haven't spoken to him in a while, but yeah. What am I gonna choose? Dude, this question is a bit problematic in the sense that there are places Like obviously the ones are in the periphery, like Siawish said, but I don't know about them, so I can't really even make that much of a compelling argument. Let me see.
I got a very cheeky one.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't know, man. Most overlooked, yeah.
Overlooked.
Overlooked. Yeah, I guess I'll just go Southeast Asia, Java, Indonesia, Malay.
That's honestly my second choice, but my first choice, now that I thought about it, is the Balkans.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bosnia.
nice. I was gonna think about that.
Really? All
Yeah.
right. You're first. I think we rotated back to you.
Okay. All right. So I would say the most overlooked, and there's a couple of them, but the most overlooked is Southeast Asia, specifically the Malay archipelago, like around Java, modern-day Indonesia, and Malaysia. For a couple of reasons. One is the fact that they are seen, I mean, physically they are on the periphery. And in terms of being involved with the rest of the Islamic world, there isn't that much contact. And that, I mean, you can argue that's partially forgivable because it's, a fair distance away from the center around the Middle East and all of that area. But in terms of like naval connections that could have been established and trade that could have been done, from that sense, it is just in general in the Muslim mindset, it's underlooked, not just in historical scholarship. And then also when you take into consideration just how important that area was from a trade perspective in terms of the commodities that it had, which the Europeans were able to tap into in the 18 and 1900s, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And then once you start going into the modern period and you notice just how essential some of those naval passageways are, like the Malacca Straits, for just general global trade, it's almost baffling to see that this area is so understudied. And also, may I say, Indonesia is like the 4th most populous nation in the world, and it's Muslim.
Time.
Is it the 4th?
Yeah,
Fourth
China,
in the world.
India, America, and Indonesia, right? What other country is there? Bangladesh, Pakistan.
Bangladesh were up there.
Yeah.
Pakistan is, I think, the 6th or so.
What is the 6th, sorry?
I think Pakistan is like the 6th or so. Well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I was just shocked by the 4th thing.
4th, yeah. Siawish, you want to go?
Yeah. In my opinion, the Bahmani Sultanate area, the Deccan, is the most underrated region of the Islamic world, mostly because this is an area in the Islamic world where people don't even imagine that Persianate culture flourished there, that Urdu, the language of Muslims of India, was born there, and so much of Indian and Islamic culture blended there. We mostly, whenever we study Islamic history, we think of the Mughals, we think of North India, the Delhi Sultanate, stuff like that. But the Bahmani Sultanate was a very Indianized, Persianized sort of world where the Persianate and Sanskrit cultures fused, and they had a famous rivalry with the Vijayanagar Empire. Technologically, they were pretty good. They had really good guns and other things, and they are the reason that the main hub of Islam actually in India was in South India, was the Deccan region, and yeah, I think that in that sense, with like Indonesia we think of Muslims, with Sub-Saharan Africa we think of Muslims, but with the Deccan we don't generally even think of Muslims in that region being as many, and we generally go to like 1800s, 1900s for that, during the Mysore Kingdom and Nizam Shahi, etc., but never to the Bahmani Sultanate.
Nice. Real quick, the population is China, India, United States, Indonesia, Brazil, Pakistan, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Russia, Mexico. The ranking of the first one I pulled up.
Brazil is way too down on the list. I thought it was like the 4th. So.
No, dude, think about a rainforest.
Indonesia is 4th, or are you talking about Brazil or
Brazil? I thought the Brazil was like in the top 4 or 5.
It's 5. It's number 5.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, see, I wish think about how much of it is just rainforest.
Yeah, but still, it's a huge country.
Huge. Yeah.
Oh, dude, you don't understand. Like a
No, I
third
know.
of the
200
country
million.
is rainforest.
200 million people, Brazilian.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is data from 2015.
Yeah.
Okay. Balkans. When we think of empires, somehow our imagination focuses on what they do externally or on the capital region. Like I can really think about London and the British Empire, whereas like we talk about the British Empire, what it does, but we don't think about like what's happening in Scotland or Manchester. This becomes even worse with the Ottomans because we accept the idea that the Janissaries and the Jizya are incredibly important for the Ottoman Empire, but we don't look at the region where that was happening. The Balkans had such an interesting story and no one's interested in it because the people living in the Balkans, most of them are no longer Muslim, and nationalism makes it so that the entire period during the Ottoman occupation is just seen as, it's like a footnote. It's really mentioned in the history books for maybe like one chapter or two, and that's it. What was the social life like? What were the cultures like? How did people practice their religion? And how did they react to the Ottoman state that they were under? How much autonomy did they have? And I think it's overlooked because it's no one's champion. I don't know how it's taught in regions in Albania and Bosnia. I imagine those people talk about that period a lot. But I also, but because of nationalism trumps religion in the Balkans, I think even in those states it's overlooked. So who's his champions? Who cares about the Balkans? Everyone starts talking about the Balkans when it's referencing the World War I. And it's weird. It's in Europe, but it's not exactly Europe. So there's no one to back it up, and it's overlooked time.
Okay.
Yeah. Balkanization is certainly used as a sort of a negative term.
Yeah. Okay, so rebuttal time?
Yes.
Let me remind myself, Siawish, Bahmani, Sultan. Okay, I'll start off with Georgi first, and I would say that I agree with you partially, and I also disagree with you. I would agree with you in the sense that, yes, the Balkans are somewhat overlooked, but I feel like, and maybe you're just doing this because it's your position and you have to do this, but you are blowing it out of proportion. I have read enough books about the Ottomans to realize for myself just how essential that area was. In fact, I want to do a video specifically about the role of Albanians within the Ottoman Empire in terms of the amount of grand viziers and military commanders it offered. I've read enough books to know that the Balkans isn't super overlooked. Rumelia, the province of Rumelia early on, and then even later on. In terms of the Bahmani Sultanate, I would say again, yeah, the same thing. I don't think it compares to my one. It is kind of overlooked, but you're kind of blowing it out of proportion because you can say the same thing about some of the other states that came after it as well, like the Nizam of Hyderabad or Bijapur or Golconda. So many of those other Deccan Sultanates. I would just echo the point that I made earlier about Java in terms of the lack of overlooking, the amount of overlooking. It's startling. Obviously all of the ones we've chosen is overlooked, but there is no comparison. There's no competition here. I'm like the ugly child that's been ostracized. My family doesn't want anything to do with me. You're one, your dad is kind of disappointed in you, but still I have to change my surname. I have to change my surname.
That is way too dramatic and way too unnecessary.
I watched too many Bollywood movies as a kid, sorry.
Sawish?
Okay, going to Indonesia. Indonesia is not ostracized or anything. People know Indonesia is a Muslim country. When we meet, like, Indonesia is just, generally we know Indonesian Muslims, and we can see their culture in different Western countries and stuff like that. So it's not really ostracized. Yeah, people don't know their history generally, but it's generally people know about it in that regard. About Bosnia, I think that with the Bosnian genocide and that stuff, Bosnia and the Balkans is more well known at this point. And my debate wasn't only focused on the Bahmani Sultanate, it was focused on the Muslim Deccan, which includes Golconda and all that. Tariq mentioned that it was only about the Balkan, but the Bahmani Sultanate wasn't. So yeah, people generally know about Muslims in the Balkans. People generally know about Southeast Asia, about its history. That yeah, it's Muslim. It became Muslim, and Bosnia, I think, to a lot of Muslims is very interesting because it's white Muslims. And same for similar thing for Southeast Asia. But the Deccan, nobody knows the Deccan.
Apart from the people that know about it.
Yeah, like a very few people.
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm wondering about the size comparison, if it's fair.
Okay, and one thing about Bosnia, recently, I don't know,
Balkans. My argument was not
Yeah,
Balkans.
Yeah,
but
dude,
yes.
why'd you keep changing it? And
Yeah,
also,
sorry,
your argument, Siawish, was Bahmani, wasn't the Deccan region. You mentioned that, like,
He
afterwards.
can have the Deccan. He can have the Deccan, but
No,
it's
but you
still
can't change your argument.
just
compared
one
to
thing,
ours.
One thing to add about the Balkans. I don't know what happened, but like recently on Twitter and Instagram, I'm seeing a lot of posts about that. Like I don't know what the algorithm thinks I want to see, but
Yeah.
a lot of posts about the Bosniak massacre. I think there was an anniversary of it recently, so
maybe.
I've recently been exposed to it a lot.
Okay.
Okay, talk about Bosnia. I mean, sorry, the Balkans.
It's the same thing.
What? Oh my god.
Georgie,
Muslim Balkan is basically the same thing as Bosnia.
No,
I mean, of course, there were no Muslims.
I'm not biting.
Dude, that's literally the most disrespectful thing you said.
Where else do you find Muslims in the Balkans?
What do you mean, Bulgaria?
What?
Very few
Bulgaria,
Muslims.
Kosovo,
No,
Albania.
it's like in the 20th century, but like historically, there was loads of Muslims and Turks.
Historically,
in Bulgaria.
yes.
I mean, there still is. I think like 5% of the population.
Yeah.
By that measure, we can also include Turkey, include Germany as a Muslim country because there's 5% Turks here.
God, hold on. I had a rebuttal and now I lost it. Okay, let's go. So Southeast Asia is just, it's extremely broad, and it doesn't, with both of your arguments, is like, what does it connect to? I'm trying to ask myself a question. Is it ludicrous that these two regions are overlooked? No, it's not, because I haven't seen that many sources. I haven't seen, and this may be ignorance. Maybe there's incredible stories out there about the Majahapit or about Southeast Asian merchants and Islamic trade. But in both of your cases, I'm like, one is too broad, other is too specific and surrounded by other things. Like, what do they attach to? It makes more sense out of, like, if we flip the question, which one of these three makes the most sense that it's least sense that it's overlooked? The Balkans, because you're set up with so much. It connects with everything. You have history before, history after, impactfulness, tons amount of stories and sources, and yet no one cares about it. Time.
Balkans never had an independent Muslim state, so like it's like
doesn't need to have an independent state to be like, we're just talking about the region.
Yeah, dude, that's a weak argument.
But he said that which of these makes the least sense to be overlooked. I think the Balkans makes perfect sense to be overlooked because it did not have an Islamic state.
Why?
Because
why is the state important?
You don't
that's
associate.
Like saying,
you don't associate the Balkans with Islam, particularly because there was no empire. Similarly, you have many minorities in many countries, many Muslim countries, but you don't associate them with that particular religion or so, because, like, for example, Zoroastrianism is not exactly associated with like Persia these days because there was never any serious. There hasn't been a serious.
But wouldn't you agree that if no one studied Rome and Britain, wouldn't you agree that the argument, well, there was no independent state in Britain at the time because they were under Rome and that's why they're not studied? Wouldn't you agree that that's not a great argument?
I can see where Siawish is coming from.
Yeah, me too.
But with enough time in a region and there being enough things happening and that area contributing to that empire in an acceptable manner, I think that argument kind of it gets dismantled. You know what I'm saying? Like if
No.
like the amount of grand viziers in the Ottoman Empire that were from the Balkans, the amount of military commanders, naval generals and admirals, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, what the hell?
I
And
don't
it's
want to
not
make
like
it
they're
too
gonna lose their
controversial.
shit.
I
I'm
don't want to make
saying
it too
is-
controversial, but the Jewish people didn't really have a state for a long time. That doesn't make their history not interesting or unimportant.
I'm talking about being overlooked. Like
Okay.
you can understand why something. You said least. The
You are
Balkans
right.
makes the least sense.
Yeah,
to be
you are right.
overlooked. That's what I'm saying.
I get it's not a bad argument. Yeah, especially
Right.
how you framed it. It's well said. But this was our final debate, and there's been a really good bunch. We're about to keep going on the banter episode. I don't know which topic we will unfold and discuss in depth, but for now, I want to thank you both for bringing on so much heat, so many amazing arguments, and so much knowledge to the table. I truly, truly, really appreciate you guys. If there's anything you want to plug, anything you want to say to people, now's the time.
I would just say check out my channel, Hikmah History. I've got a bunch of really cool series coming up about modern things like the Ottoman Reformation and Arab identity. What else do I have? Yeah, just a bunch of other series. But yeah, check out Hikmah History.
Yeah, check out Hikmah History. He needs the subscribers, and once you've done that, you come over to Al Muqaddimah to actually learn something.
By the way, for the record, people, you know, he has openly told me, and I've got screenshots of our WhatsApp convo of how I will make a video about a topic because we both do Islamic history, and then he will watch it and learn from it and then make the same video. Honestly, Sarah, you need to be careful because I might sue you one of these days.
Wow. First of all, you do not own facts. That's legal. It's legal to steal facts from someone else. It's legal to steal someone else's research. But
thank you, everybody. Have a great time.